Don't listen to scuttlebutt talk. Don't listen to the rumor mill. When you're looking at thousands and hundreds and thousands of claims on a regular basis, sometimes it gets missed. How are they gonna rate your GERD condition? How are they gonna rate your back? What to do? What should you expect? How can you make sure you convey what you're going through?
Oh man, a lot of great information there. Save the good information to the end of the video, right?
Transitioning out of military, with that transition, guess what? VA benefits. Let's find out what are the things that you need to look for in the 38 CFR, Warren's manual. What is all these things? Let's figure it out. Transition and transition smoothly here at the Prepare to Compete podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Prepare to Compete podcast, where we talk all things VA benefits, real estate, entrepreneurship, and more. Kenneth Davis, what's going on with you today, my brother?
Oh man, just blessed. Really here to educate at the #1 veteran podcast. I can't wait to really get to our service members and kind of give them all the information they need.
Absolutely, absolutely. This one here is definitely another hot button topic that we want to make sure the veteran community understands. You know, everyone wants to receive the highest possible rating. You know, hopefully 100% or even for some, even beyond, right? Whether they're just transitioning out of service or they're veterans that were just underrated for a number of years. But we really want to break down and make sure that they actually understand what goes into that rating decision. And now one of the things there that just kind of puzzles a lot of us, right, is that CFR 38.
Yeah.
So what we want to know today, Kenneth, what is CFR 38?
Well, the CFR 38, so what it is, it's a 38 CFR Code of Federal Regulations, you guys. What that is pretty much the guidelines, okay, and regulations on what you should be looking for to get your rating percentages and the code and regulations that go behind them, right? Kind of federal regs, right? Again, 38 CFR 4.2, 38 CFR 3.309, 38 CFR, whatever, what have you. So those are typical regulations that, you know, decision makers, raters, the VA looks at in making any decision, whether if it's the VHA, VBA, or even burial, right? There's so many different components when we're talking about the 38 CFR. I really want to make sure that you guys understand this is the Code of Federal Regulations for the government. But part 4 is where we like to look.
Okay, part 4. Okay, so now the 38 CFR, bunch of regulations. So now when you're talking about part 4, what is encompassed under that part 4?
Yeah, so when we're talking about 38 CFR part 4, what it is, it's pretty much your rating decisions, where you find, you know, how are they gonna rate your GERD condition? How are they gonna rate your back? Right? What are they going to specifically do with a symptom such as instability within your knee? What to do? What should you expect? How can you make sure you convey what you're going through, right? By being able to take a look at some of these things.
Glad you brought up GERD, right? Because we actually just had a video on that. A lot of information, please definitely check that out. But we had a video on the regulation changes in regards to GERD. So now when they're talking about regulation changes on how things are rated, is that what they're referring to, the 38 CFR 4, you know, and how that's kind of going on there?
So it kind of goes through a pathway, right? Just like any law that is passed or anything that is regulatory within the government. Everything has a little red tape, right? So we want to understand that when we're talking about federal regulations, listen, you guys, these are federal laws that are put in place, okay? So it goes through a pathway. We would say that it is one, then suggested. It is a suggested request or opinion that goes into place, right? And I'm not going to go through all the components that it goes through. But what I will say, it is a request or a suggested opinion that that one has had upper in the VA, typically executives within the VA makes, trying to rate the decisions giving the veterans the best opportunities, or not giving them the best opportunities, right? So with that, it goes through the pathway of getting passed by those powers that be. So when it actually gets approved, right? When it actually gets approved, there's a transitional process. It must go through, again, go through law to be enacted by a judge, okay? However, with a lot of these changes in regulatory information, we must always understand that sometimes there are quick changes that may or may not happen on a regular basis, right? A lot of decision makers, raters, and such actually receives much of these changes ahead of time with the court cases. Again, we'll be able to provide the link before. You'll be able to look at some of these court cases and see what the decisions and actually see what's coming down the pipeline. But when these changes are happening, you would want and think decision makers would get those first, right? So a lot of these changes are distributed internally. Okay, and once they're distributed internally, at that point in time, it's still a transition before enacting it fully into law. Because though it is assigned into law, different regulatories amongst each regional office needs to happen, right? And it's just not, when we're talking about veterans, we're talking about a vast amount of people. Right. This is a whole federal agency. So when that law passes, or when that regulation change happens, it's dispersed. Okay. Now it's dispersed. However, through the court case, a lot of times it is always public information. Now, the court case per se may actually be put in place into law when everything is passed. But now it takes its time to go through up the channels, get put in regulation, goes through the regional offices for the VA, and so on and so forth. And that's how a regulation change within the 38 CFR typically happens. Again, I don't want to go in technical terminology. I just want to kind of give the basic outline.
Right, the basic outline is great, because even when you think about it, in terms of maybe that's why sometimes bad rating decisions may happen, right? Because, the new regulation may be one thing, and a particular regional office that had your particular claim here didn't know that new regulation, and you have to go and appeal the process and higher level review and different things of that nature. Yeah,
no, true indeed. And I'll tell you, you guys would be surprised how many times that specific regulation that you would think would be basic is not applied because there are checks and balances among several different parties. And sometimes when you're looking at thousands and hundreds and thousands of claims on a regular basis, sometimes it gets missed. And also, we also have to understand, right, everything passes through as a systematic process. Going through a systematic process, sometimes certain agencies, may not be the VA or may be the VA at times, sometimes things are bypassed a little bit more quicker than not. So if you have to go ahead and push cases through, well, some cases may get pushed through with a wrongful decision and some may not, but that's why we have an appeal process, just as though we have an illegal appeal process in any other manner with the federal government typically. So, but all in all, different things are missed at times.
Absolutely. It sounds like you really need to leave understanding of the 38 CFR to professionals and legal professionals and different personnel that really actually have a commitment to understanding that information, right? Because if you look at it last year versus this year and you're trying to apply that same information, then it could have already changed, right? It could have changed already.
I'll tell you right now, this is some of the fastest changing information that happens so regularly. Most raters are overwhelmed with a lot of changes that are happening. veterans are overwhelmed with the changes that are happening. Sometimes the changes are for the good, sometimes the changes are for the bad, and sometimes they just don't know until the actual changes are effective that's been in place for years. And then they make a change to try to either get better or think you're getting better and actually get worse. But at the end of the day, you're still serving the veteran population. And as long as we're putting the best foot forward, that's not always the best answer. But I will tell you, a lot of times the changes are made for the better.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, that's always the hope, right? That's always the hope that the change is made for the better. But the question I have for you here is that since it's so vast and so hard for veterans to really understand the 38 CFR, literally they have their own lives, right? They have their own lives, they have their own careers. That's literally for professionals that do that on a daily basis. But however, our veterans need to receive the maximum ratings for their claims. So how can they best equip themselves with enough comprehension of the claim and the CFR process to receive the highest possible rating?
Great question. Well, I'll give you the first don't, right? Don't listen to scuttlebutt talk, right? Don't listen to the rumor mill. Frankly, about time you got that rumor, that regulation has changed 3-4 times over about time you're getting started, right? So that's the first don't. But the first do is to simply log in onto va.gov to get the simplistic information that's digestible for you and know what benefits that you're offered. That's number one. Okay, typical criteria is always there, right? So understanding that initial criteria is the basics. Understanding those typical criteria are the basics. Once you go through the first initial criteria, and if you qualify, go through the process, right? And then at that point, like you said, try to seek subject matter expert help. Though we all think we can change the plumbing in our house or again, change out an engine in our car. Well, I'll tell you, let's leave some of that to the professionals, right? Because there's always a missing screw, missing washer, or frankly, a leak that is happening within the home. So sometimes getting that professional help does assist as well, because once you have went through the criteria, now you want to get to the nuts and bolts of things. And a lot of times, if you're not doing this day to day, it gets a little cumbersome. Gets a little overwhelming, and you then are not putting your best foot forward and putting yourself in a position of success. But now just understanding the basics by logging on to va.gov, understanding what you can apply for, what you should be able to be eligible for, and so on and so forth. That is the first step. That's
definitely the first step. So, wonderful information that you're providing them here, and I always want to kind of push you to continue to provide them more and more value. So what we want to make sure we understand as well about the 38 CFR, which you definitely successfully kind of alluded to, is that it determines the rating criteria, right? So, you talk about scuttlebutt talk and different things, right? We're talking about, there's rumors about, hey, I can get 80 or 90% for tinnitus and different things like that. That 38 CFR can actually dispel some of those myths and actually break down how you can get a certain rating for a particular condition. So I wanted you to kind of elaborate a little bit more on how that CFR kind of breaks that down.
Oh yeah, true indeed. So there is obviously criteria there, right? And conditions, right? Whether if it's a knee, whether if it's a back, whether if it's mental ailments, whether if it's anything that it's related to your military's ailments. Okay, well, when you break that down and go through all the criteria, it pretty much gives you the outline of what's needed to, one, get to the next higher available percentage, and also to keep you where you are, right? So understanding that, right, I always want to make sure that when you are reading these things and when you are understanding it, make sure that you are understanding it to its fullest ability, because doing half the work is only going to get you half the results. Right? So just because you see a back condition that is going to be produced at 40% and you had back surgery, and your back surgery has really put you in a position where that your back is in pain every single day. You wake up every single day from carrying that rucksack that you had. Now you had that slipped disc, and now you've had surgical procedures on it, and now your back is to the point where you're in pain. Well, you may or may not still fit that criteria to get to the next highest available of the 40%. Your subject matter expert job is to be able to decipher that and see how you can be able to get there, or how we can position you to get to where you need to go. But if they're not understanding the 38 CFR at a basic level of that nature, I don't know if we should be even speaking with them first and foremost. But secondarily, understanding the steps on how to do so. And how do we do that? There's also another guide called the Warms Manual. The M21 Warms Manual, okay? And that manual there is pretty much the guidelines or the Bible of that 38 CFR. So typically, again, if there is a 38 CFR regulation there is a Warms Manual step on how to complete that action there. Okay. So you can have a regulation code that tells you on how to provide an effective date, right? We can take a look at that. It's very simple. Well, what is the guidelines that actually shows you how to do so? Or what is the guidelines on how to provide duty to assist? Or what are the guidelines that are going to be able to effectively push your PACT Act claim? Well, how do we check if it's a PACT Act? What are the VA doing to check if it's a PACT Act? Well, if you don't know those simple corresponding aspects of things, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to maximize and produce a successful claim that is only half the effort. So when we're looking at the 38 CFR, that is just part of it. There's different components that you really want to study, dive into, and effectively make sure that the team that you're working with is assisting you to the highest level.
Oh man, a lot of great information there. Save the good information to the end of the video, right? That's a wonderful concept for us here. So again, even more information here we want to provide to you here. And what I want you to do, Kenneth, is I guess you introduced the Warms Manual. I want to see if you could actually give them like a particular example of how that would actually apply. And, I have, a condition we can kind of go off of, like maybe like back condition or something, and, how that's referenced in the CFR and how that's also applied in the Warms Manual, right? And how that works, right? So if you can give them a little bit of a gem right there, because if they got to this part of the video, Kenneth, they deserve that gem. But I'll give them my own personal gem of just a little bit of what I know, right? You always want to take advantage of the bilateral factor, right? You always want to take advantage of the bilateral factor. That's just a gem I'm going to give you. I don't know as much as Mr. Davis here, but I know to tell you that.
All right, veterans. So listen, when we are talking about the CFR, I know, again, we kind of outline things for you that information is going to be here. And good information is going to be very valuable for you as long as you can decipher the data and information, retain and execute, right? So when we're talking about certain information, let's talk about the CFR 4.30, right? Convalescent rating. This is one that is overlooked by veterans so very often. That's simply just because many veterans do not specifically know. And what is a convalescent rating? Well, let me tell you what the convalescent rating is. So if you are service connected and you are receiving service connection for a back condition, With that back condition that we earlier used in our example, and you had a surgical procedure. So with that surgical procedure, you are not going to get better. You're not going to get better for the next 4 months, 3 months. You're still working on that back. However, many of us know that if you're dealing with a back condition, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to get to work for months on end. Okay, so dealing with this, regulation CFR 38 CFR code 4.30 actually authorizes something called convalescence leave. And what a convalescent leave is, well, you're going to be able to receive temporary 100%. A temporary 100%. The requirement is to have a surgical procedure on a service-connected condition that is actually going to put you out of work or something of that nature, or family instances, or normal day-to-day daily living activities of the time frame up to 3 months. Up to 3 months, okay? So with that, it will be effective from the date of the procedure, admission, or outpatient discharge. Okay, so again, at that point, you would be granted temporarily 100%, even if it's 10%.
Wow.
So when I want you to be very careful when we're looking at the 38 CFR, because as I just mentioned, there's coupled with the M21 WARMS manual. You need to be able to decipher both, because you need to know exactly what you're looking for. You need to know the regulation on one end, but you also need to know what the actual decision makers are looking for, and again, how they're going to actually go down through the process to make the decision that they're going to render you. Okay, and that temporary 100%, that's going to be actually enacted, and you have a year's time frame to be able to turn that report in. So now being able to provide that surgical report, let's say again it happened 8 months, you're finally better, and now you want to let the VA know. You let them know, and guess what? It's going to be backdated to the date of your actual surgical procedure. So now you're going to be granted that pay during that rating decision period. So, yes, sir. That's just one aspect.
Man, so much value in that one aspect, though.
Yeah.
So much value, so much value. I appreciate you providing that value for him today, Kenneth.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely want to continue to provide value on this channel, but this is only just a small percentage of the information that's out there. So definitely, again, get with your professionals to really understand and dissect these things a lot more. Of course, we have a number of videos on our channel here that you can look at and receive a lot more guidance and things. But also, we also have a community. We have our Veterans for Veterans community that we'll actually provide the link for. And we also have our learning center within that community that delves into those topics a lot more detailed than we do here. You know,
Yes.
Here we're just coming from like a podcast perspective, and we're talking about these things and updates, and we want to give you the information so that you can just dissect and get this information quickly on the go, right? But within the Learning Center, you're able to really receive the teachings, right? And that's more designed for you to sit there at your computer, you know, on your TV screens and really take notes regarding the topics there, right? So the Learning Center is where you're going to find a lot of the detailed information to these topics. So definitely, I'll have the link below to that. And also subscribe to podcasts here, of course, but also be involved in the community as well. The veterans community that's connected to the app that you will actually get to the Learning Center to, and you can ask a lot of questions there, right? You can get a lot of resources and information through working with other veterans. You know, we have a lot of our individuals, as far as our case managers and different things, chiming in, answering questions, and we're really hoping to facilitate a lot of good dialogue, because, you know, we don't have solutions to every question in the Learning Center just yet, right? But if you let us know what questions you have, we'll definitely be able to do our research and provide those answers to you.
Yes, most definitely. Our subject matter experts, again, we have subject matter experts there who have not only worked with the VA, for the VA for many years, they're going to be able to provide you, again, that clean content and support as well. Just being able to answer questions, you know. At the end of the day, it's about answering and serving one another, okay? Again, when I tell you this learning center is going to be one of the best decisions you made, I'm going to tell you it's going to be one of the best decisions you made, because I'm going to give you right now, again, aspects, an extension upon that 4.30 that we were talking about. So let me tell you, for you guys who actually listen to the end, so when you actually take that convalescence leave, if you are having a knee condition or having a total knee replacement that is in place, well, guess what? That temporary 100, instead of getting up to 3 months of disability, it goes to 13 months of temporary 100% disability. So for those who are dealing with a total knee replacement, a total hip replacement, or anything of that nature, so please go ahead and claim your temporary 100 benefits. With those temporary 100 benefits, you're going to receive your special monthly compensation if you're entitled. You're going to receive the entitlement to 100% temporarily. Again, whether if it's compensation or the ancillary benefits. So please don't miss out. Please don't miss out. Click the Learning Center, because there's more. That's just a small snippet. Again, I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Our subject matter experts are here. We're here to support you. Please like, subscribe, and also join the Learning Center. #1 veteran podcast here.
Prepare to compete. He said it all. He said enough. We out. Peace.